Come on. Good morning, everybody. I'm trying to get Instagram to go live and it's not working. So no Instagram today. Anyway, guys, it is April Fool's Day, but this is no April Fool's joke for episode 0000035. We have the man, the myth, the legend, Michael Anschel on the show. Thanks for being here, man.
Dude, I'm humbled and honored to be with you on this show. It's cool.
It's yeah, I think we had 30 seconds in the green room to talk about it. And you're like, what's the format of the show? I'm like, you'll see. And
remember the last time we did a podcast?
Absolutely. I can't wait to talk about that because that was so much fun. That in so many ways is the impetus for me doing this, not to compete with, I believe is it Remodelers Live? What is Kyle Hunt's show now?
I thought it was Remodelers on the Rise.
That's what it used to be. Maybe it is that still. I'm not sure. But
Remodelers? It's Risen. I mean, we're kind of near that whole like zombie holiday, so maybe Remodelers have risen.
That's what it is. It is. It's almost Holy Thursday.
I have this great image of every year. It's a picture of the Pillsbury Doughboy, and he's like all doughy, and it says he has risen, and then there's next to him is the Pillsbury Doughboy, but he's flat and he's like looks like a matzah, and it says he is not.
See, we don't know what the topics of the show are going to be. When GPT tries to transcribe this to give me a show summary, it's going to be like, it's going to give me a chapter where we talk about the Pillsbury Doughboy. Like going back to that, so we and I want to give a little bit of your background as well, but we first met during COVID. Paul McManus put together like a marketing group Zoom call on a Saturday morning.
Right.
And it was just super great to connect with people that we met through Facebook groups in the industry. But I just walked away like really cool and inspired. And then I think we were both fans of and on Kyle Hunt's show. He was going on vacation. So we had this great idea. How about Michael and Dave do a Remodelers Show takeover?
That was it. It was like trial by fire, right? Just jumped right in. It worked. It worked great. It was awesome.
I thought it was a blast. I remember him texting me like, "You're running long. You're running long," and I was like, "You don't know me very well, do you?" Yeah, I was super fun, and I enjoyed doing it. And this show is kind of a similar format where you just kind of jump in. Honestly, there are levels of topics we want to get into. A guest like Michael Anschel, for anybody that knows him, is like, where do you even begin, right? There's so much meat to what you do. You're in Minneapolis, run O&A Design+Build. I saw you like 3 weeks ago or a month ago at the Builder Show. We caught up for a little bit, but you were doing one of the demonstrations. Dude, you were in your element doing that. I've never seen such joy as you with the belt on, working the crowd and the kids, got the microphone on. You were demoing flashing installation and stuff like that, right? Yeah. Talk about that. Like, how much do you love doing that?
I really love teaching. Honestly, I think teaching is one of those things. I get immense joy from it. Obviously, that telegraphed out to you. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
There's that whole like what fills your bucket, what fills your cup sort of thing. I was just at JLC Live teaching a couple classes there in Rhode Island. Was that this week? Last week.
Yeah.
And after I got an email from one of the attendees who just said, he really enjoyed the class and was inspired, and had a cool kind of reference about AI and Saigon and helicopters leaving and all that. And it was less the compliment about it. It was more for someone to take the time to track down your email address, send you an email. Right? That takes effort. And so whatever happened in that class was, it clicked enough, or it had meaning enough for that person. And that to me, like that's the six, that it's just fun to see it when people get it, when people are then take it on and do it. It's the same thing like the estimating classes, right? It's like you get that email from someone 6 months later, they're like, oh my gosh, our books have like our projects have never been this profitable. We're doing so well. Or another guy sent me an email. I was using my AI class, and he totally took the message to heart and like went home and started playing with this tool and built a website for one of his projects and rebuilt his logo. And he's like just on fire. And it was just, it's like, it's cool to be in like what I'm trying to describe here, to be involved in something bigger than yourself that sparks something more. Yeah. So flashings, like it's same thing. It's like if one person comes away from that, like understanding how liquid flashings work or how kickout flashings work or some part of the building envelope or the science of it that changes how they build forever. Like fuck yeah, right? Like, is there anything more exciting like that? You just like nudged an entire company or person or industry just a little bit, and it's just gonna like ripple out. It's I don't know.
Yeah,
Cool.
I can see that. So I'm on that note. I'm kind of curious here. So your staff, because you give so much to the entire building committee and or community, does your staff feel neglected?
Yeah, sometimes they're like, little attention over here would be nice. Yeah. And so then I do periodically try to make a point of like sending them information. But I think I realized at one point they're not watching, like they're working and they're not watching the podcast and they're not at my lectures. And so they're not hearing the stuff that I've said. And so my brain, I've said it, they should know it. And they're like, yeah, we weren't in the room.
So I'm pretty sure no one from my team is watching this right now. Right. So to that exact point, and then I'll talk to them. And we did like a lunch and learn last week. I'm like, raise your hands if you watched LivLive, because there's such a great nugget. It was from Todd Hansen, who's also in Minneapolis, big Minneapolis theme going on. And he had the name it, circle it, point to it methodology for introducing anything to the company. So I talked about that. But yeah, I just assume that everyone knows what's going on in my head. And if you really want to get into what's going on in my head, this show is probably the best place. You have a wealth of content. So I'm sure most of your team's like, where do we even begin? But anyway.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
Speaking of Mr. Hansen, he applied for so I ran into him in person at an RA event in Colorado. And I'd never met him in person. I knew his company, like, they're in the neighborhood.
That's Dan Hansen. That's a different Hansen. That's Dan.
Hansen.
Yeah. A lot of Hansens. Yeah.
Who the hell is Todd Hansen then?
Todd Hansen's with Quarterstone.
Oh, I do know Todd as well.
He's the director of experience.
On a podcast that I mixed Dan and Todd up.
Yeah, now I got to have Dan on.
Yeah, Todd has taken a couple of my employees over the years.
So,
yeah,
maybe I gotta spread the love outside of Minneapolis here.
We used to joke that we train them and teach them, and then there's like 3 companies in town that take them, and we're just like, but you know what, I take it as a compliment that other companies look and say, hey, if they came from OA shop, they probably know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're probably worth investing in some more. So, we're all friends, and the employees who've left and gone, like we still get together and have drinks every now and then. And so,
well, and Minneapolis just kind of has that community vibe anyway. I don't think it really benefits anyone to be a little bit too aggressively cutthroat. What is that?
Huh?
What is that?
That? Let's see, there's a camera. There we go. These are our new company mugs.
Oh,
are you not familiar with this?
No.
Oh, that's remember Star Wars?
Yes, I'm familiar.
Rebel Alliance.
See, you're going too deep.
That's the logo of the Rebel Alliance, except it's been swapped out for a loon.
Oh, a loon. So yes,
It's our state bird.
Yes.
So it's the Minnesota resistance movement is, current events and all that.
Yes, there's always, it does seem like the last 5 years has not been friendly to Minneapolis. However, Minneapolis has only become stronger and more resilient and maybe tighter knit. Is that fair to say?
I think that it was, so for those who don't know, a 4,000 troop occupying force moved into our city. And so that, like, because that's just a number, we have 430 police officers for a city of about 1 million.
Wow.
And so the presence of 4,000 combat looking, big machine gun carrying type folks. It was a disturbing event. There's a lot of violence. Some people got killed. A lot of people got injured. And the community, like Minnesota's it's got a thing where instead of everyone, I think they wanted Minnesota to go like riot and be crazy. And you saw a lot of like trying really hard to write a narrative that there was riots in Minneapolis, right? And the opposite, right? The community just was like, nope, we're going to do passive resistance, but we're going to do it on like a next level scale without any real, like there was no head. There was no single point that was leading it. It was mostly like the PTA. I remember like the day that they stepped foot onto a high school and threw some kids to the ground was the day that all of the moms, like across the political spectrum, were like, oh, hell no.
Yeah.
And the next day I was like getting text messages and people were like just spontaneously organizing themselves into little groups. And it was all initially around keeping kids safe and making sure that they didn't witness anything that they shouldn't witness. And this is right on the tail of the Annunciation shooting. So everyone was already kind of a little up.
Yeah.
And then it just turned into this, like, I have a Signal. I'm on the Signal app, right? And everyone's got funny code names, but like literally in real time, they're tracking vehicles driving across the city. And you'd go outside and there would be a mom or a dad or a grandma or grandpa, like on every corner across the city. And they're just there checking vehicles and sending information, sending updates so that people knew where they were. It was cool. And it was a very feel good. We had the singing resistance. I mean, right? There's a group that they go and sing like beautiful songs outside of the hotels of ICE officers, encouraging them to change their, that they can make a choice. They can make a different choice and not be an asshole.
I like it, man. Yeah.
No politics on your show. That's what you said. You said, Michael, no politics.
We're talking about how the people of Minnesota are the best of the best.
They're not the best of the best.
That's not, they're good people. We don't have to get, that doesn't have to be political.
No, it's not.
Is that fair? And yes, I am good friends with you, Dan Hansen, and Jeff Nicholson, 3 competing companies in Minneapolis. But Chicago's similar, right? I mean, it's a larger city, but it's that Midwestern. There's enough to go around, and the rising tide rises all ships, or something like that. So, well,
what is it? Paul Wellstone said, "We all do better when we all do better."
There you go.
Easy one.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, just because you typed in your name, your middle name is Cope.
That was there when I logged in. I thought you put that in there.
No, that's probably because when you're on Kyle's show or some other show.
Oh, that's funny. My middle name is not Cope, but
but it is I know what it stands for. The cost of project execution.
You got it. That's right.
So since it's on there, man, let's talk about that.
Yeah, you tell me. What is Cope, Dave? How does it work?
My understanding, the cost of the sale price of a project is said thing, and it creates this shell game of messiness and trying to talk about markups and margins and all this confusion and how to give a level of I'm trying to shy away from the word transparency, because there's a level of transparency that's necessary, but to give clients the tools to understand where their dollars are going, right, is really the whole idea. So through the cost of project execution, it helps clients, homeowners, better understand what the real cost is of achieving this project across every little moving piece, right? So you want to replace a toilet lever. There's more to that cost than just even the labor and time it takes to put that toilet lever in and the cost of the toilet lever. There's the procurement aspects of it. There's the unpackaging. There's the disposing of the box, right? And these things happen over probably 1.2 million little items within a project. And so you've developed a way to efficiently deliver this level of understanding of project cost to the clients effectively.
That's pretty good.
Is that good?
I like it. I've never heard it described that way. I love it.
Okay.
I will add, it's a level of transparency to the clients becomes really easy because it's primarily a level of transparency inward to the company, where instead of just taking cost of goods and multiplying them by something to figure out sale price, you're doing the additional work to figure out what all of those other costs are or might be, so that you're no longer marking anything up. And then sitting down with the client, there's not like this huge number that like there's not this 68% markup on. Then they're like, well, what's all that money? And you're like, well, that's lots of different things. And then you're just explaining and justifying. It's just like it gets rid of all that, so that like the profit, what's shown as the contractor's profit at the end, is what you actually hope to take from that project as net profit. Not like overhead is its own category, management's its own category, billing is its own category, customer meetings is its own category. Like everything has been pulled out of that, and it reflects the project more accurately. I think it's a better indicator for companies to understand what really goes into a project. And usually what happens when people get into using the COPE method is that small projects become really expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh my gosh, no wonder I'm not profitable. And then big projects, they realize that, when you get up into the $900,000+ projects, you can't really run those at a 40% margin. I mean, maybe for the ultra rich who just don't care, but you start to price yourself out if you're just trying to maintain a kind of a static margin across all project types. So,
well, and on that note, what is kind of your do you do a range of project sizes?
Yeah.
So that allows you to maneuver those effectively within the market, not just necessarily from a sales point perspective, but from like a business operational standpoint, right?
Right. Yeah. Right. 100. So yeah, 100,000 is kind of our minimum, and 7 million I think is the biggest thing that we've done to date. Yeah, those are wildly different. Like those look nothing alike in terms of operations. But like when a client calls up, like past client, and they're like, hey, my boiler died, can you replace it? Like you can't sell that, with a 68% markup.
Right.
And what do you have to do? You have to call your HVAC guy and be like, hey, that address that we did work on 3 years ago, they need a new boiler. Can you take care of it? They say yes. Like you've got what, maybe 3 phone calls and 1 bill. So, you put a little bit on it, but it's like a $12,000 boiler replacement, and maybe your cost is 10. So the client's happy to pay to not have to worry about it, think about it, and vet remodelers, but you're not going to sell that at $18,000 because that's ridiculous, right?
So can I give you probably your number one leading question on it? What's the difference between COPE and cost plus, man?
Ooh, cost plus. Oh, Okay.
Right? Don't you get that question all
Yeah,
the time?
yeah,
'Cause,
totally. Because some
it was
people will
rhetorical,
say,
but
well,
yeah.
they'll describe it as it's cost plus esque. And so first we do fixed sum contracts, so we're not running cost plus. So once we leave estimating and go into project, right, we're not coming back and like, hey, you got to pay this and pay this. It's like it's a package, it's a set price. And cost plus, I don't want to knock it because it has its place, right? If a project is poorly thought through, not well designed, clients like, maybe do this, you're like, that's cost plus because there's no way to estimate it. But everything else, kitchen, bathroom, new house, like you can estimate it to within 0.5% accuracy, easy, right? Cost plus is still percentage based, right? It's still saying you're going to take a percentage of COGS. And that I think is inherently flawed. Again, on a really big project, right? You might say, well, we're cost plus at 9%. And 9% of 5 million is pretty good. And so that works. But if you're bouncing around on that spectrum, you can't do that on a bathroom remodel.
Right.
Or you'll be out of business tomorrow. Right? A small project's got to have a margin that's much, much higher. Because it's, that 8-week project that's used 8 weeks of your capacity. That's 8 weeks of your team's time. That's right. And maybe there's a $150,000 kitchen that could occupy that same slot. You can't run a $60,000 project and a $150,000 project occupying the same space, with the same numbers. So.
Well, and on that note, I'll shift to process a little bit. I mean, I think that's something that we've learned in kind of nailing down our ideal project size is that we've learned over the years that our design process and our production process is kind of tuned for projects that are $200,000 and $600,000.
Yeah.
Like that's what it's tuned for. We've found efficiencies. We have mechanisms. We have all the checklists. We have all the stuff that's set up for that project type. As soon as we get lower than that, we still have the same process, which takes a lot of time and energy and checks and all the stuff, same deliverables, right? All the stuff that goes into a $200,000 to $600,000 project is the same for something that's sub $200,000. So out of the gate, I've got like $60,000, $70,000 of cost just to operate it.
Yeah.
So in order to do that, I believe it just takes because companies do it all the time, right? But it's a separate process. It has to be tuned for that project size. It has to be made efficient to be able to reduce the amount of time given, the amount of deliverables that are necessary. Maybe the checklists are reduced because that stuff doesn't matter. And so it kind of takes the same thing with projects over $600,000. I think the same thing, right? There's more level that we're going to need in terms of interior elevations. If you're doing a regular bathroom remodel, you probably don't even need interior elevations. There's really not a whole lot to it. I don't know. Maybe we're just going to sketch. I don't know, right?
It could be quick, right? There's just fewer decisions.
So we just haven't, and we've tested it. We have a live light process, which allows us to get to construction faster for a smaller project type. But those projects are still 6 figures, right? And I just don't know how to efficiently show up and do a deck, or something like that, which are very complicated, aren't they? Decks are crazy complicated.
They're more complicated, unless that's what you, unless decks are what you do all day, like, and you just like that. You're set up. I think this is your point, right? You're set up for a process, and deviation from a process it creates like the wrong kind of friction, right? And to your point, like if your team is taught, if you teach your team and you build systems to do something a particular way, and then you're like, yeah, but on this one I want you to do a little differently, then the whole time they're like, wait, what am I doing? It doesn't feel right, and it's either going to be too little or too much. It's I 100% get what you're saying, and we had the similar kind of experience with like we're designed to take time to go through design and to have meetings and talk about stuff, work through it, make it iterative and collaborative. And, for projects that really need 1 or 2 meetings to get through it. And we're like, yeah, but first we do this one, then we have this one, then we have this one. It's like, it just feels like it doesn't fit. And that's okay. I think that's the trick, right? Is knowing like what's in your wheelhouse and what isn't.
Right. Yeah. And when you're trying to take the team along with that. And so as we've tested or tried different things and we've trained, or our team has learned over the years a very specific process. As soon as Dave comes in and says, no, we don't need to do that on this one, all hell breaks loose, which is good, right?
Maybe.
I think that's good. They're like, no, this is what we do. If we don't have this step in place, this doesn't happen. And like, you're right. Then we need to engineer a completely separate process that everybody's on board with, is the idea.
Yeah. As owners, I mean, I feel like part of our job is to get out of the way and not be like when we step in and start to mess with it, the reaction of the team should be, go away, please. Right. And then you're like, great, it's working.
I get that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the dad jokes. I'm guessing it's probably.
I think it's the dad jokes. It totally is.
Yeah.
And the incessant rambling about name it, circle it, and.
So Nate, you said name it, circle it, talk about it, whatever.
Point to it.
There's a movie. It's on Netflix. I think it's called like Runaway Bullet Train or something like that. It's not a great movie, but it is. But it's kind of fun to watch. It's in Japan. There's a runaway train. They got to keep it moving at a certain speed. And it's kind of like all the right. But there's culturally some things that the Japanese do, and having lived there, I'm super aware of them. But then like living in the States now and looking at it, like, oh, I bet most people are watching this and they don't get all of the symbolism and little things that are happening. So this is relevant. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
So one of the things in Japan, like working for the rail system is like a good job that is a very honorable job, right? And all the people who work the subways, they wear white gloves and these very crisp suits and hats, and they have these hand signals, intricate hand signals that they give to each other, and they like, it's like when people get on and off, but they also greet the train. There's this whole thing that happens, right? But one of the things that they do is they log everything that they do. So they all have these little notebooks, and they're always making little notes about what they do. And the operator of the train has a process where they do with themselves a speak, point, speak thing, where they'll be like going through their checklist. So it'll be like, parking brake is, where's my finger on the screen here? There we go. Parking brake is set to on. Parking brake is set to on. Check, right? And it's like this, they have to point to it, say it, and then point to themselves. And it's this 3-step process to make sure that they don't just look over the control panel and be like, yeah, check. Like, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
And evidently, so I was working with a builder that I've been kind of coaching them for the last 3 years. And I brought this up as a method of ensuring that everyone in your team is like on the same, like, does everybody really understand the next step and the next task? Does the client really understand what you've just pointed to and identified? And one of the people was a helicopter pilot. He said that helicopter pilots have to do the exact, like that's part of their training as well, because every step is so critical. And you just can't speed it up. You can't hurry it up. But the process is kind of the process. So like I'm tying 3 different conversations together. But
yeah. No, it's applying, a level of presence to an important task, right? Mm-hmm. An awareness. So my wife just mentioned it the other day. I don't know, she saw it on Instagram or something, I imagine. But you're sitting at dinner and you pick your phone up and you look at it. And what you're supposed to do is when you pick it up, say, I am picking my phone up now. and then you'll stop doing it because we don't even know it. We don't even think about it, right? We're just like going through the stuff, and you're just picking your phone up or checking your phone at whatever gap in time that exists, and that's starting to certainly help us lose a little bit of awareness and presence in the things that we're actually trying to execute. I mean, I do it all the time. You have a million windows open on your computer screen, right? And then I hop over to one other thing, and I had a call at 9:30, but at 9:27, I started something different.
So
and
true.
I'm going to work on it for 3 minutes. And next thing I know, it's 9:40 and I'm 10 minutes late for that call. And now my brain shifted over to that thing. It's anyway.
Just even the continuity of like when you look away, when you're talking and you're having a conversation, and that break in connection, like I'm gonna put my attention over here, even if it feels like it's just gonna take a second, like it isn't really disrupting the flow. It does. It does interrupt the mood, the vibe, the thing that's happening.
Yeah, I think I've read it takes like 20 minutes away every time you shift gears like that.
Interesting.
I don't know.
Yeah,
how accurate that is.
Is that a 3D printer in the back of your room?
It is.
Cool.
And you got your guitars, and I got my drums.
Yeah. There. Yeah.
Oh, actually, that one's just a regular crappy printer, but the 3D printer is over here.
Is there one over there?
Yeah, that's right there.
Ooh, nice. I bought my first 3D printer this late last fall. You got the what is it called? It's one of the bamboo printers, but it's the one that it's like an enclosed thing with the different spools on the top, so you can print multicolor type things. And
have you used it for any building products or anything like that?
I've 3D printed a lot of whistles because that was a thing here.
Yeah. There you go. You could.
I 3D printed some fidgets. I 3D printed a whole bunch of. Remember when you were a kid and you got those wood, like build a dinosaur out of like those wood parts?
Yeah, you clip. Yeah.
So I printed a bunch of those, like TIE Fighter, an AT-AT, T-Rex. Like, bring those home with the kids, and like, yay, fun. We keep talking about using it to build like little dollhouse versions of some of our clients' projects, so they can really see them. We have a really complicated staircase that we're building. If you follow our Instagram, there's probably like 50 posts about this dancing winder staircase that we're building. And trying to visualize, like to take these 2D drawings and turn them into a 3D model. The challenge is time, and none of us are really good at understanding the modeling tools and the slicing stuff. So I've been relying on just really printing stuff that other people have already created.
Right.
It feels like I'm letting myself down. But yesterday, a buddy of mine, and I don't know why I didn't think of it sooner. He's like, newsflash, you can have AI, like AI will create the model and the slicing for you if you ask it to. Like, it's not complicated. It's just not complicated work. So describe the object. And once you have the object the way you want it, then tell it to create your slices and your layers and your supports, and it'll build the whole thing, and there's your exportable file. I was like, son of a bitch. I don't know why. I'm in AI all day long building shit. Why did I not think to build, like, hey, AI, here are the CAD drawings of the staircase. Now turn that into a 3D printable model.
Well, I think what's weird about it and why we're printing whistles and Lego blocks is because you're a maker and you're a craftsman, and it's weird to hit a button and have something made, because part of the making of it, is the making, right? And figuring it out and saying, oh wait, this connection shouldn't be like this. Let that connection be something. So I think it's very foreign for a maker to really understand how to leverage a 3D printer as a design tool, because it just isn't a design tool unless because you've already designed it and then you're just having it generate this thing into space. It's like physical AI.
Yeah,
I don't know. So
I
that's why
love it.
I don't know what to do with it, but I mean, as a guy, like obviously with my boys, the first thing we wanted to do is see the largest thing that we could 3D print. And
Did
it
you
was
print one of your kids' heads? Did you take a
that
photo?
would have been cool. No, we did a giant Stanley Cup as big as we could make it. And of course, by the time I got to the top, it was like this.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's
Uh,
anyway. Well, we're kind of over time, which is how I always do it.
oh,
But I got to ask you because one of the reasons I reached out last minute last night and like, Michael, can you be on the show? I was actually not going to do today because spring break's coming up, but you had this awesome post on LinkedIn with like a basement design guide in terms of insulation and all the different things. So how did that come to be and how cool is that? It was beautiful too.
I'm
Tell
glad
me
you
about
like
that. Yeah.
it. So I was flying to JLC to give 2 talks, one on AI and one on basements and crawl spaces, which I'll be in Columbus, Ohio in 2 weeks doing a 3-hour presentation. Look at that, Ohio.
I just happen to have my Ohio mug. Yeah.
Nice. But if anybody's going to the National Home Performance Building Conference in Columbus, there's a 3-hour session on crawl spaces and basements.
Cool.
And I built out my deck, and I hate decks. Like I don't build out PowerPoints anymore. I use Prezi. I try to mind map it, but it's usually an idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, crawl spaces are just basements. They're small basements, and there's all kinds of bad ways of doing it. But like, there's like 2 good ways to do it, and that's kind of it. That's how you should do it. But people need to understand why, right? You got to understand hydrostatic pressure. You got to understand like thermal control and vapor drive and all of this stuff, right? So building this, I'm like, what happens is you speak, you show some slides, people listen, they think that they're getting it, then they leave and they're like, oh shit, what was the thing? And I was like, how about I just take all that information and build a website, build a tool that you can then, like, now you have the tool. You can just ask the tool, what should my basement look like in Columbus, Ohio? Or I'm in a coastal region in Rhode Island. What should my footing depth be? And do I need to worry about drainage? And then it'll pull the information, give it to you, and then also pull from the library of illustrations and this is what it should look like, right? And here's a nice 3D rendering of like my 2D CAD drawing, which is very architecty, engineering-esque, right? It feels good for us.
Yeah.
But most people in the field, they look at all those lines and it doesn't mean anything, right? So getting a nice cutaway, like illustrated picture with colors and stuff helps. That's what that layer is doing, right? So I built the tool, and it's got an AI cooked into it that is pulling from Building Science Corporation, ProTradeCraft.com, DOE, NREL. So it's pulling, like I've limited what it can pull from. So it's pulling from good building science. And so far, like I had to give it new knowledge yesterday because Minnesota has a code amendment for our footings. And I didn't realize that, because it's in our version of the IRC. I assumed it was in all versions of the IRC, and it's not. So, it's like I went back to the tool and said, hey, I got to give you a new knowledge piece for footing and concrete PSI recommendations. And here's what it's based on. Like, here's the code interpretation, and here's the reference, and this is why. So you can answer, like, when someone's like, what should my footing concrete PSI be? And it's like, well, code, says the code kind of doesn't address it. 2,500 to 3,000 PSI is kind of recommended, or is what's usually called for, but 5,000 PSI is what you should really be doing. And here's why. So that's the tool. People should use it. I don't know. Can you share a link?
Yeah, I'll put in the show notes. One, I think it's a really interesting thing because it simplifies it. It makes it somewhat prescriptive, which it kind of is, sort of. But aren't there still a lot of nuances in it? Doesn't it depend on if it's a concrete block wall, foundation wall, or a brick wall, or is it not really that complicated?
I think we typically overcomplicate it, and it's
Yeah.
usually product manufacturers who are looking for like, hey, my product will work if you do dot 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 dot. And
Okay.
I think if you get like kind of brass tacks, right? If your wall is CMU or poured or ICF or like whatever it is, if you're not addressing all 4 of the control layers, you're going to have a problem. And so any system that is like, oh, we're the thermal control and da da da, but they haven't addressed like hydrostatic pressure at all, or they haven't addressed vapor drive. Well, you can't solve a water problem with insulation.
Yeah.
Right? They're 2 different things. So you got to go through and address all 4. And when you start to go through it, you're like, end of the day, I got to have a drainage layer on the outside. I got to have some sort of hydrostatic pressure release. I got to have a continual thermal control. I got to have continual air control, and I can't have any vapor transference from inside to outside. And it ends up like you end up just stacking those things, and it's like, they all kind of belong like here. And the foundation wall type becomes largely irrelevant. Again, are there ways can you put insulation on the inside of a foundation and make it work? Of course you can. But gosh, it's so much easier. Like if you're digging a hole and you're putting in the right foundation, don't put damp proofing on, put waterproofing on, right? Put your insulation there. I mean, it's there. Like it's wide open, put it on there. And now your insulation, like above grade and below grade, it's all in line, and your water control is all like, it makes the building easier.
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting for me going from Chicago to North Carolina, because you go in climate zone 5 to climate zone 2, and that's where I think the tool is really cool to go through, because you can just kind of flip back and forth between the different climate zones and understand what vapor barriers do in high humidity areas versus climate zone 5. Like it's a very different reaction with the vapor barrier that will cause mold and all this other stuff, right?
100%.
And that's something that just to kind of see it there is, I just thought it was really neat, instead of trying to comb through a million books. Or to your point, like if you Google basement insulation systems, a manufacturer website's going to come up and say, use my product, and it's going to be this thing. And yeah, it might work, but is it really the simplest way? I didn't dig super deep into it, but was there anything on spray foam, or do you don't like spray foam?
Oh no, I love spray foam.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan.
I saw a lot of rigid.
Rigid foam?
Yeah. Just rigid insulation board.
You can use it too. I think so. I tried to address like fluffy bat type.
Okay.
Rigid like XPS. And in fact, if you look in there and you ask it about EPS or XPS or polyiso, it will give you an opinion on which one you should be using below grade. Because that is definitely a strong opinion.
Yeah.
But to your point, there's like if you're not immersed in the building science world and you just want to build, you don't want it to fail, and you're like, hey, I'm in this town, right? I'm between zone 2 and 3, but here's my town. What's the system? What's the best system to use? And then it'll identify, oh, you're in this area and you have mixed climate, or because it's not North Carolina is not just one. Right, because I mean, like climate zone 1 and 2 to me are miserable. Like, who would?
We're on the border of 2 and 3, so
yeah, right.
I don't know.
Elevation. You have snow? Don't you get snow way up top, or
you do out west? Now we're the Piedmont, so in Raleigh, you're really right on the border between the mountains and the coast. So it's hot and humid, and then 30 degrees. I mean, it's not like Chicago was always fascinating, just because you get that 140 degree temperature swing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why you put your footings 4 feet underground. Here you'll see more slab on grade, and it's just 12-inch deep, but it's all clay, so it slides, right?
Yeah.
Well, I was always jealous. So there's an architect, Rick Joy, who's always been one of my favorites, and he's from Maine. So but he moved to Tucson, Arizona, and designed some really cool buildings. And I'm like, you're cheating, man. Like, it doesn't count if it never rains and you never have freeze thaw.
It's true. That's totally true. Like California, I feel like that whole area, like you're dry. You're dry.
Yeah.
You can
Until it's not.
God, what was like Atomic Ranch? Remember that? Like in the mid mod like genre, there's a genre called Atomic Ranch, and it prominently featured these like through members. So you have like this beam that would go from the inside through the glass to the outside, and it would be like really gorgeous, right? And then someone would take that and build it like in Minnesota, and it just fails, just like massively fails. And you're like, well, yeah, you have this thing going from -40 to 70. What did you think was going to happen? Like, well, we didn't think about that.
Well, I mean, look at Frank Lloyd Wright, built throughout the Midwest,
mm-hmm.
and then did Falling Water essentially in a Pennsylvania rainforest, right? And then people are like, oh, the roof's leak, like no doy. Then he's like, screw all you guys, I'm going to Arizona. I'm going to build Taliesin.
Yeah,
there's no humidity, right? You can just build with stones and dirt and logs and dirt that'll be there for forever. Yeah, Rick Joy used to do like rammed earth projects, right? So you're just
beautiful, like beautiful, right? But not in. Could you imagine rammed earth in a wet, cold?
Yeah, we tried it in college. Not me, but the year behind me did a rammed earth house in southwestern Virginia. I'm pretty sure it's washed away by now. I think you increase the cement content or something.
You've got to put a bunch of additives in it to get it to be more sticky, or coat it with something, I guess. But yeah, not every building type belongs every place. And here we go. Just like I don't think we benefit from chain restaurants and stores. Like when I walk out of a speaking gig, and I have no idea what city I'm in because it's just like all of the same stores and all of the same architecture as the last 4 cities. To me, that's a shame. Like,
yeah,
you should be that like this region has distinctive architecture and this region has distinctive architecture, and we shouldn't be putting Mediterraneans in Minnesota, right? And likewise, like big shaded, long, huge overhangs in places that are wet all the time. Like that just it's not great either. So, I think I would like to see us like embrace regionalism in our design philosophies a little bit more. But
I totally agree. I mean, if you go back and America's history really isn't that long, but yeah, you go to Virginia and everything was brick because they had lots of clay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you go to Chicago in Minnesota where you have all the craftsman details. That's because you just had clunky carpenters, right? They were making something cool out of a really simple joint. That's how I think about it. And people building their own houses and things like that. So yeah, I mean, I think, obviously the availability of every building product known to man for every single place known to man has made a pretty homogeneous architectural landscape.
Right? Those live work condos that go up in every city that have yeah. You know that in 20 years it's gonna be, oh, did you build that in 2015?
Hey, so and just because we're running long on time.
Oh, sorry, man. Yeah, you're right.
No, but I have to circle back to it because we were talking about 3D printing, and then we were talking about building and localized building methodologies. So what about 3D printing for our construction industry? What do you think that's gonna really deliver on something? I saw a 3D printed Starbucks article recently that was kind of intriguing.
You're talking in the 3D printed homes?
Yeah.
I think that so. I saw my first 3D printed home, like a printer printing a home. I want to say like 4 or 5 years ago at the Builder Show, and it was fascinating to watch. They obviously they've built. There's a whole bunch that have been built now. I think that they have their place. I don't think it's going to take over the building industry. I think that in certain climates, like we were just talking about, like New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, right? And especially in places where housing is expensive. Building a house by hand is an expensive and inefficient way to do things.
Yeah.
So where we need housing and we need it to be resilient and relatively energy efficient, I think a 3D printed house and a 3D printed community makes sense in much the way that like the Gothic rail houses made a ton of sense when we were building railways and we had factories and people needed a place and it didn't need to be big. At the same, like in that same breath, I don't think 3D printed houses are going to take over. There's going to be more and more automation within our construction process, right? Like the floor layout robots are really cool.
Yeah.
Like where they zip around on the slab and they mark out all of the stud locations and all the plates. And then there's nobody sitting there with a tape measure trying to figure out where that wall should be.
Yeah.
The framing crew moves a lot faster. We've got the panelization factories, not mobile home panelization, but like, why wouldn't you just order your walls are drawn? Why not order up all the walls, have them shipped to site and just set them in place? Like
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. There's the drywall robots. Those are pretty cool. They show up on Monday and they're not drunk. That's good. Drywall are drunk. So I think that while it won't be like just concrete homes, I think we're going to see more and more robots and AI robots infused with AI on the job site, which is probably good for us and our bodies and like for the people who work in the field like that.
Yeah.
It's really hard on your body. The Hilti, I don't know if you've seen the exoskeletons that have been like, it basically lets you pick up a 60-pound bag of something at half the weight. So it's like you're picking up 30 and the armature is picking up 30.
I want one of those. That sounds like fun. The Iron Man suit, right?
Yeah, right. Go to China and all of like the big tourist destinations where you have to go up mountains and big hills. They sell these cyber legs, or they rent them, and you basically strap them on, and they help you walk upstairs.
Cool.
So cool.
Yeah.
Like who likes walking upstairs?
Right.
Yeah.
And then, well, we're going to have to do another show because I want to dig into building technology in the future, right? So one of my favorite things to do is predict the future. So I think it'd be really cool to talk through that. But on the stair climbing thing, I've always had this approach, on ADA compliance stuff. It always kind of drove me crazy. And obviously I want, equity towards everyone disabled and all that. But the force of ADA compliance to change the entire built world instead of change the mechanisms to allow people to be able to transport themselves efficiently. It was literally designed for, like, let's change every building code in the world so that everyone in a wheelchair designed in 1932 can access everything. It's like, isn't there a better wheelchair solution? So to your point, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's mechanisms and devices to allow people to climb stairs. Hopefully the technology is getting there to make everything more accessible for everybody instead of making everything one story with a ramp. Anyway.
No, dude, the things of the past that limit us now is like, there's why, what is it? Sorry, hold on. It's like the rockets that we build, right? They're limited by a certain size, right? Because we use rail cars to move them, right?
Right.
And the rail car track is a specific width. And that specific width, this one here where I'm going?
Yeah.
Is from Roman carts, because that was the width of 2 horses. So literally like 2 horses side by side with their little harness set the wheels here. And that's the standard that we still use for modern transportation.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So to your point, that right, we have a tool or a thing that's 100 years old that it would be so much easier to innovate on that thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like crutches. Have you ever had to use crutches?
I've never actually had to use crutches, knock on wood.
They're like,
yeah. Tiny Tim used them in like the 1800s.
Tiny Tim. But like nothing about a straight stick makes sense for your body. Right? People who use crutches, like they bang their hands, the crutches slip out. Like there's
wrap a towel on the top because it hurts your armpit.
Yeah. There was a guy who made a different kind of crutch. It's called a Moby leg, because he hurt himself, and he was an orthopedic surgeon who was a little creative, and he was like, a crutch should probably be designed like that, and then like that, and then have like a rockered foot, and have like a grip that goes out instead of straight down. Like, and yet we still haven't made that the standard. He invented this thing like 15 years ago, and we're still issuing stupid tube aluminum crutches. Yeah. Anyway, blah blah blah.
Yeah. Dude. This is fun, man. So are you up for coming on again? Did you enjoy this?
Yeah, I love a good ramble. You always give me things to think about, and I always appreciate our conversation and your way of seeing things, and those different perspectives and how they come together. So I really enjoy the opportunity to learn from you. So
likewise. No, this is awesome. I didn't know where it was going to go, but it's always great talking to you. Yeah, I'll put the show notes up and put the link to your basement crawl space tool, which is kick ass. Thank you for putting that together, man. Really cool for you to share all that with people. And yeah, man.
Yeah.
Best to Minneapolis and the crew up there, and we'll talk soon.
Cool, dude. Happy April.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Happy April Fool's Day.
Rabbit.
See you, man.
See ya.